Time for Deal or No Deal.
I signed for them after the Euros, and after my first day's training on it driving home, I was actually thinking, regretting it, what have I done? Like I walked into a circus.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Phil Egan, good morning to you. How are you?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Yeah, what an interesting weekend of, what a weird weekend of football.
I mean, I think this is the kind of season we could have. There's going to be a lot of unpredictable results, and even the West Ham one, David Moyes working from home.
Yeah. It's like, hang on a second. What?
Yeah, and it's such a bad record against Wolves as well. And a lot of people looked at West Ham's fixtures, and we kind of did this last season as well, where towards the end of it, you looked at their run and you thought they're not going to pick up any points, but then they obviously went and they beat Chelsea. So the way Moyes sets them up, Antonio is key for them, and Bowen actually has been a really good signing from Hull, which they got him in January. It was his goal that opened the scoring, a bit of quick thinking, and Declan Rice was key to it again. Just I can only imagine what would happen if they lost Declan Rice.
Well, okay, I mean, they know what they're doing. Apparently, the owners of that club, they know exactly what they're doing. So let's get into some of the transfer tittle-tattle, because it all has an impact on the conversations about the weekend as well. So Manchester United have apparently made contact with France midfielder N'Golo Kante's people about a possible move for the serial winner, but they want the Chelsea man to take a wage cut. It's like, oh, come and join us, but you're going to have to take less money. That's always been what footballers want. Apparently, they're also about to make one final bid of, no, it's not final, one more bid of 90 million to sign Jadon Sancho. That's 20 to 30 million short of the asking price. We haven't spoken about their performance against Brighton at all. Where are the problems for this Man United team, and are there any deals to be done in the next 7 days that are going to sort those problems out?
Oh, they need a lot of sorting out. You look at the defence, obviously. Lindelof always gets the headlines for any mistakes they make. I was even watching Match of the Day at the weekend, and yeah, Lindelof wasn't good, but Harry Maguire wasn't much better. But because he's the United captain, he's English. An England international, and they paid 80 million for him, it seems that he's exempt from criticism. But yeah, even Wan-Bissaka, who I would rate as their best defender, looks like he's doubting himself now. You think of the Solly March goal, if you look at it again, a cross coming in from the left-hand side, which is where Sevilla scored, where De Jong scored from. And on that night, Lindelof got a lot of the flack. I actually thought Wan-Bissaka should have been the one coming across to pick up De Jong. But on Saturday, Lindelof again is in no man's land, so all the players have to shift one across, which means Wan-Bissaka is picking up Neil Maupay, and behind them then is Solly March. But Bruno Fernandes is actually standing there, and he can see Solly March, and he just stands there. And Solly March, obviously, it's quite a difficult header that he scores from, and you know, he had to be quite subtle with it. But I know Bruno Fernandes is not a defender, but you still have to sense the danger. If you see somebody and you think he actually could score if the ball comes to him,
I mean, go and mark him.
The alarm bell should be ringing there. But look, Bruno Fernandes got them out of jail with an unbelievable penalty.
Well, I mean, look, the crazy rules got them out of jail, right?
Yeah, they are the rules, unfortunately, at the moment. Actually, do you know what though? The Maupay one, I think, was a penalty. But that doesn't fall into the same category as what Eric Dyer did yesterday or what Joel Ward did on Saturday.
Sorry, the hand is up, but the game's over.
The game is over.
The game is over.
Well, no, the game wasn't over though. When that handball happened.
But then the referee blew his full-time whistle. Are you allowed to go back and?
Absolutely,
and you can. Yeah. Like, for how long?
It happened in Germany a couple of years ago, where the teams went down the tunnel at half-time, probably had the first sugar in their tea ready to go, and they're like, right lads, back out you go, because we've reviewed it, there's a penalty, and they had to take the penalty. So Chris Cavan had blown his whistle as soon as Solly March cleared Maguire's header off the line, but because it happened before the full-time whistle went, they're entitled to it. It was a mental game, but the worry for United is they were so bad, and sometimes with these early kickoffs it takes you a while to get going. But Brighton hit the woodwork 5 times, and you know, obviously the Aaron Connolly penalty was overturned as well. And United get the win. They're a strange team under Solskjaer. When you think that things are just going to go from bad to worse, they actually start to pull out these results. So maybe this could be a bit of a turning point where they got the win. And
Rashford pretty good.
Yeah, it was a great goal from Rashford. And I think Van de Beek obviously came on. If you look at the goal or the penalty incident, Maguire's corner, Van de Beek does brilliantly to keep it in, to get the corner. And I'd like to see him in the team, because I just think he gives you that bit more energy. Pogba just didn't look at it, whether it looks like he's off fit. He's not fit. But then again, like he had COVID a few weeks ago, so we got to cut him some slack there. But maybe if he isn't up to it, then why not put Van de Beek in for the moment?
Yeah, give him time to recover.
Yeah.
Phil, do you think, like, on the penalties point, like you're making the point that the Mopé penalty that was given away in the 100th minute, that was correct, and I kind of agree with that. And like, I wonder, is there a way that they can actually get to a point where the Dyer penalty doesn't get given, but the Mopé penalty does, where one is travelling towards goal, one isn't. They're both in the box, but one is a more serious offence than the other. And I wonder, should we start like staggering actual offences within the box to actually get to a point where things might be more sensible?
Yeah, see, that's the problem, and that's why they want to be consistent. And so you look at the Dyer and the Joel Ward incidents where, yeah, it hits their hand, and of course it looks worse when you see it in slow motion. But the difference with, say, the Dyer one is Dyer's got his back turned, whereas Mopé is actually looking at Maguire, and he clearly raises his arm. And, you know, the look from Mopé after Bruno Fernandes scored said it all, that a look of guilt, and just a guy that's actually started the season really well would have had to go into the changing room after and put the hand up and say, well, he did put the hand up, but for the wrong reasons, but in the changing room after and say, sorry lads, I cost us there, because Brighton, it looked like they got a fully deserved equaliser because they were brilliant. And I think a lot of people were obviously very critical of Brighton, the way they dealt with Chris Hughton. You know, after he kept them up, they sacked him the following day. But you can see the evolution under Graham Potter, and at times they played some great football, but they just weren't clinical enough.
Okay, will Kante happen?
I don't think so, no. But they definitely need him, because Matic, you know, he obviously plays with that discipline, but he's just not as good as Kante. And but at times I feel with Chelsea that they are starting to underappreciate Kante a bit, because obviously Sarri played him in a more advanced role. You could see what he was trying to do. He's your best dispossessor of the ball, so the higher up you have him, you know, if he wins the ball back for you, obviously you're on the attack. But all the success Kante has had usually has come in that deep role, whether it was under Ranieri with Leicester or Antonio Conte with Chelsea.
Give me a 1 to 10 on Sancho happening, 10 being the fact that it will 100% he is signed playing the piano.
No, not in this window.
Right.
No.
Phil, you have taken to Twitter to ask, if Alisson misses tonight's game against Arsenal, should Liverpool be signing a new keeper as backup? Why? What has Adrian done to break your heart so often?
I just think I even looked at the Lincoln game last week, and I know, look, the game was an absolute stroll for Liverpool. They scored 7 goals, but the 2 they conceded, there was an incident where there was a ball kicked right at him and he could have caught it, and he just parried it out, and he just doesn't instill that much confidence. And I can only imagine that filters into the defence where balls go into the box. Look, it's very hard to replace Alisson. There's always going to be a drop-off there. But Alisson, if he does miss the game, we're told that he hasn't been training the last few days, the same with Thiago. I think they can obviously cope without Thiago, but Alisson is a bigger loss. We saw that with the Atletico game, the home leg and the Champions League, that if Alisson isn't playing, obviously it's a serious drop-off. But Adrian, he started last season okay, because remember Alisson got injured in the first game, the game against Norwich, and Adrian came in and, you know, he saved that penalty in the Super Cup and Liverpool won, and he was seen as a bit of a cult hero. But I wonder how much confidence, what his confidence is like after that Atletico game. And yeah, I said he just wasn't very convincing.
Okay, so you want a replacement.
But it's very hard to get you need a goalkeeper that's willing to sit on the bench. So you're either looking at a young guy who is trying to develop and maybe things I can learn off Alisson, or you're looking at a veteran goalkeeper who's happy to sit on the bench. Look, for example, at what Spurs have done. They've got Joe Hart, but honestly, I don't know. Who would you pick, Joe Hart or Adrian?
I mean, yeah.
That is not a decision I'd like to make.
No, it's a disaster if you're going to Joe Hart. Right, Chelsea will make a formal bid of more than 40 million for Declan Rice this week, according to The Sun. Can Rice fix Lampard's Chelsea?
He would certainly help, but I don't think West Ham are parting with Declan Rice for 40 million. They're going to look for the biggest amount, and obviously that they're entitled to do so. But I think they'll price Declan Rice out of it, because they'd be quoting 70, 80 million, and Chelsea won't pay that. I don't think they will. I don't think so. But also, like West Ham, you know,
if they think Declan Rice is the new John Terry, would they pay that? They would, wouldn't they?
Well, I mean, after seeing Thiago Silva the other night against West Brom, I mean, to be 3-0 down to that West Brom team after half an hour is a serious concern. And Lampard can talk about individual errors, but one thing we've seen in the last couple of seasons, they've been dreadful away from home. They've only kept one clean sheet away from home under Lampard in the Premier League. So you'd have to look at the way that defence is coached or not coached in this instance. So, yeah, I think Rice's long-term position is definitely as a centre half. But as I said, I just don't think West Ham can afford to let him go because, you know, in terms of the PR, the owners, they obviously let Diangana go. And it's not as if they don't have cover in that position, but I think it's just when West Ham moved into that stadium, the owners talked a good game and basically said, you know, we can go to the next level.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened.
No.
They're scrapping in relegation scraps.
And they're for sale, is the other thing.
Yeah.
Like,
so
that's I think the overarching story here is that club is for sale, and so they might want to take that cash now, take it off the table, and still try and keep the same price for the sale price. So we'll see what happens with that one. I think that there probably is a price where they take it, and it's probably closer to 55, 60 million. And there's probably some high-stakes poker to be played over the next week, and that's going to be relatively interesting as far as these stories go. A reminder, OTB AM is live in association with Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. Can Ruben Diaz, we're talking about a lot of players with a lot of responsibility, can he save Manchester City's season?
So Nathan Ake, it turns out, can't, although he did score. But, look, City were an absolute mess yesterday. We talked about them before. Teams that run at City, if you can go right at the centre of their defence, that's where the problems are. Their two full-backs make mistakes as well. Look at all the games they won last season, or they lost last season. There was a pattern. There was teams that could counter, the likes of Adama Traore with Wolves. Remember what United did to them in the first half an hour at the Etihad? Rashford and Martial just went at them. That's how you do it. With Ruben Diaz, the guy likes to tackle. He likes to. He's committed. I wonder, you know, if you're looking for a calm head. Obviously, Laporte was seen as the answer there, and he's had a few injury concerns. Don't know what his confidence is going to be like when he comes back into that team, but it looks like the central defence, even if they do bring in, well, they are bringing in Diaz, there's a lot more for Guardiola to worry about. You know, Aguero is...
Including his own inability to make players better.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
that's the main thing here, is how many players have gone to him at Manchester City and got much better?
Well, Sterling was there when he arrived, but there's no doubt Sterling has got a hell of a lot better under the coaching of Guardiola, scoring more goals, just getting into better positions. Because Sterling, I would still say, is not the best finisher, but if you're standing at the 6-yard box most of the time, you're going to score goals. But yeah, you're looking at Mendy's been...
De Bruyne has got better.
De Bruyne has got better, yeah. I mean...
Any of the defenders, any of them.
But see, that's...
Spent 400 million on defenders. Yeah. Any of them got better.
Aymeric Laporte has been an excellent signing, and I think Aymeric Laporte's got better.
Otamendi, 40 million. Any of the 8 fullbacks that he signed for £1 billion, none of them look like they're better footballers.
Depending.
Like, even with Laporte, I think Laporte is one of these players now that at the moment his reputation's been enhanced by
Andy
his
Reid.
absence. Because he's not there.
Wes Hoolahan.
Last season, yeah, but last season it was like, oh, they're missing Laporte because he's injured. But actually, Laporte came in towards the end of the season. They weren't that much better, were they?
No. Right, very quickly. Calcio Mercato in Italy report that Barcelona have ended their interest in Inter Milan's Argentina striker Lautaro Martinez, who's 23. We're also being told that Barcelona have turned down an offer for 17-year-old Spain forward Ansu Fati for 125 million. Marca report that the club were made aware of the bid by the teenager's new agent, Jorge Mendes, a few days ago. Can Fati save Barcelona?
Well, he certainly did his best last night. 2 really good goals, especially the first one, absolutely hammered it in. It's amazing when I looked at the Barcelona team before last night's game. Obviously, Suarez is gone and he scored a couple of goals on his Atletico debut, but they just look like they'd more energy. Even just looking at we know Messi needs to play around players that have more energy, so there isn't room for Messi and Suarez in a team that wants to be in the latter stages of competition or winning La Liga titles. And Suarez will obviously score goals wherever he goes, but the bigger picture is it was time for him to go. Now, saying as good as Fati was, and obviously Coutinho played as well, the worry at the moment still is Griezmann. Can they get Griezmann scoring goals? Can get Griezmann doing what he used to do for Atletico Madrid? Because they spent a lot of money on him, and if they're not going to go after Martinez, basically they're throwing it all into Griezmann and hoping that he can find a bit of form. But
swap him back for João Felix, that's the solution.
That would be an unbelievable move.
Yeah, and maybe a bit of money, like a lot of money at this stage. Phil, what's going to happen tonight? Because, you know, if Liverpool win, top race is over.
Well, no, I think there's definitely not going to be the same points tally as last season. I think Liverpool will win, but they've had such a comfortable run against Arsenal at Anfield for the last 8 years. But I actually think this is a game where Liverpool fans will be thinking this isn't going to be straightforward. Like they've scored 30 goals against Arsenal in all those games over the last few years, and they usually batter them. But Arsenal are going to cause them problems, I think. But I still think Liverpool will edge it.
4-3?
Maybe 2-1 or 3-1.
You've got to finish up that sentence, Phil. This is the game that all Liverpool fans will be suspicious of, but will have no reason to feel suspicious once the final whistle is blown. The game at the Emirates at the end of last season was an absolute aberration. Liverpool could have beaten them 4-0. It's mad that Arsenal managed to win that game.
Yeah, you say that though. You say that though, right? Arsenal they beat Liverpool at the end of last season, dumped City out of the cup, beat Chelsea in the cup.
But your City are terrible, haven't we not just agreed that? That the result is meaningless.
Chelsea terrible too, it turns out.
Well, yeah. we all thought Arsenal were terrible as well.
And the Liverpool game was Community Shield, which doesn't count.
Well, it was a penalty shootout anyway.
Exactly. And also last year's game was just a complete freak. So against the one good team in England that we've now concluded exists, Arsenal were lucky to beat them. There's no need for Liverpool fans to be cautious about this fixture.
Yeah, right. Good stuff, Phil. Thanks very much for that. We'll come back to this tomorrow, obviously, because that's one of the things we can talk about on the show tomorrow. It's 9:55. OTB Sports in partnership